Welcome to our podcast, WISE W.I.S.E. I'm Maritzel Rodriguez Garcia. What WISE stands for is Women's Inclusion, Security, and Equality. If you'd like to know more about us, please be sure to check out our Instagram page, W_I_S_E_gov PROJ.
And I'm Hayden Grenier. In this episode of WISE, we are going to be talking about the effects of abortion and the relation to crime. We will also be having a guest speaker later in this podcast. So let us start off. What is abortion?
Abortion, according to the medlineplus.gov, is a procedure to end pregnancy. There are two different types of abortion that can be done, one being medical and the other being a procedural abortion. A medical abortion is done with medicine that a woman takes, whilst a procedural abortion is a procedure done through surgery to remove the fetus from the uterus. Both can have different benefits than the other. It all just depends on what your doctor thinks is right for your specific situation.
Abortion in this definition is healthcare. As we should all know, many complications can occur from the start of pregnancy to the end of it. There are many different conditions on either the mother or the child that can be fatal for both. A common example of this is pulmonary hypertension, diabetes, and swelling.
Pulmonary hypertension is where the blood vessels in the heart and lungs become constricted and puts extreme strain on not just the heart/lungs, but the entire body. When you're pregnant, your body starts to work overtime and can go into heart failure. There is a 50% mortality rate for something that is preventable. Another common illness that is severely affected by pregnancy is diabetes and high blood pressure.
With diabetes and high blood pressure, it can lead to kidney disease and maybe even kidney failure.
While being pregnant and having severe kidney issues can lead to not only death of the mother, but the death of the fetus as well.
The U.S. has one of the highest maternal mortality rates compared to other developed countries, cited by worldpopulationreview.org. Many of these are preventable, and it has only been rising from 1985, cited by allworldindata.org.
Not only is it important to women who have complications throughout pregnancy, but also victims of abuse. In an article written by Liz Pride, Office of Domestic Violence Strategies, they state that most victims are likely to continue suffering from the trauma and abuse. As well with American Psychological Association, abortion is not linked to mental health, but restrictions to it are. When women are denied the right to have an abortion, it causes stress, lower self-esteem, and even suicidal thoughts.
With that, abortion had been legal federally from Roe v. Wade. The case had been brought up by Norma McCorvey under the alias Jane Roe. The case was brought up to the Supreme Court, and a ruling of 7-2 was placed in McCorvey's favor in 1973. Instead of being placed as a human right, it was placed as a civil right. Yet, in June of 2022, Roe v. Wade had been overturned on the understanding that it was a substantive right and was not considered an actual right. However, later in life, Norma McCorvey became an evangelical Protestant and described her involvement in Roe v. Wade as the biggest mistake of her life. An evangelical Protestant is a branch of Christianity that emphasizes on conversion and spreading the gospel. They share conservative beliefs and can be rude on their expression.
How does this relate to crime?
Well, banning abortion does not ban all abortion. It only bans safe and reliable abortions. People are being fined, doctors are imprisoned, women who are only trying to protect themselves and their body are being imprisoned. Abortion can also be seen in songs/media that can be taken in.
There are hundreds of songs about abortion, if it be in a negative or positive way.
An example is Whitney Houston's Miracle, which discusses her thoughts of a woman who had an abortion that she later regretted. Ironically enough, Houston had later said that she never intended for the song to be taken as pro-life in her interview with Jet magazine. She only intended for the song to show that all life is precious and should be taken seriously.
Other popular artists have written about the idea of lost life and abortion, like Skillet, Ed Sheeran, Kenny Chesney, Trip Lee, Justin Bieber, and Matthew West.
All of these songs are shown in a pro-life manner, in the lyrics having the idea to stop abortion and how regret is often shown. Some of these songs are complete opposites, seen as in Cyndi Lauper's Sally's Pigeons, The song describes a friend of Larper who, as a teenager, got pregnant and ended up dying from a back alley abortion. It is a mourning song, yet it still brings awareness.
The song had drawn awareness to unsafe abortions. She had re-recorded the song after Roe v. Wade had been overturned. There have been some people who have looked into and researched such things. One such being in the early 2000s, economist Stephen Levitt and John Donohue had looked into a hypothetical of when the U.S. had legalized abortion in the 1970s that had led to a decrease in crime rates in the future decades.
They had later published their ideas on it and a few others in their 2005 book, Freakonomics. This idea had been led to be known as the crime abortion link.
They had said the idea works by such. Legalized abortion provides women with more control over their body and their reproductive choices. This then leads to fewer unwanted pregnancies and, as a result, children who are more likely to be raised in a family that had wanted and cared for them. This links to reducing the likelihood of them engaging in criminal behavior later in life.
The two had done their own research and analyzed data from different states and their abortion protocols. They found out that states with higher abortion rates in the 1970s experienced larger crime drops in later years.
They both had argued that this correlation wasn't a coincidence, but rather evidence of an inverse relationship between abortion and crime reduction.
However, it is essential to not take this with 100% of your heart. Critics of the abortion crime link have pointed out that the correlation is not causation. Other factors, such as economic conditions, the social time, social policies, laws during the time, the police force strength, and policing strategies all play a hand in declining crime.
The controversy surrounding the abortion crime link had led to many questions being asked. Some like, how should we interpret the data? What implications for reproductive rights and criminal justice have been shown?
The topic of abortion itself raises questions on human behavior of ethics, morality, and public policy.
I feel as if to properly answer such questions we had asked before, you have to be open-minded. There's nothing worse than having a conversation with someone that just does not listen to what you are saying. On both sides, you should listen to what the other person is saying and respect the opinions of others.
I mean, take me for example. Personally, you have to be able to pick and choose your own battles. Metaphorically, of course, like you're not going to physically fight someone, but with words. To have a conversation with someone who responds back without being aggressive or negative. You can talk to a rock all day, but the rock isn't going to do the trick you were trying to teach it. I'm pro-choice. Yes, I can have a conversation with someone who's pro-life. Yet, I would of course try and change their opinions if the conversation came up. Yet, with my own individual ideas, I could never date or get too close with somebody that is pro-life.
Absolutely. Most of the time, people come to debate you just because they like the drama or attention they receive from having controversial opinions. They do not care about the subject, they care more about the attention they receive. A lot of the time, people who disagree with your opinion do it out of spite as well, and not because of their own beliefs.
I mean, we see this a lot on Instagram and TikTok and other social medias. Of course, with both of our opinions in mind, I'd like to bring on our guest speaker and ask her for her opinions on the matter.
Today we have a special guest with us, one of our close friends and classmates from our school. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Of course. Hi, my name is Faith. What kind of questions do you guys have for me today?
How do you think that public opinion changes based on race or gender?
I believe that a lot of men and just both genders out there really feel like they have control over the woman's body, even though it has nothing to do with them and it's not even their choice. Like, I don't know. It just makes no sense to me, you know?
I mean, yeah, I feel like the whole idea of kind of banning abortion leads into, like, other controversial things happening, like child marriage.
That's what and, like...
Yeah.
Like, sex trafficking and stuff
like
all
that. Like, I recently saw that New Jersey, like, thank God, they banned child marriage. And some dude was basically like, I don't know why we're taking away the right and, like...
Like, what do you
like,
mean?
the right bodies. And I'm like... You're talking about an underage girl like this. Like,
what do you
bro,
mean?
like, it's weird.
He was, like, talking about, like, how she's like, oh, you guys are taking away fertile, young, and youthful, ripe women from men. It's like, so, what?
bro, especially on white men, like like the white men that are in the political sense, they're so horrible with it. Like,
And like the thing that trips me up most is that like obviously if the person has to go through with the kid and everything, you know, it's like a lot of people sign up their kids for foster care, and I don't know about you guys, but like foster is not good for little kids, and it's prone to show that like people in that foster care system are more likely to get raped, sexually harassed, molested, or even get put into sexual trafficking.
yeah, especially because they don't have like that parental that stuck with them parental figure, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
No, not just that in general. The system fails them by not like backgrounding foster families. Like some people who are foster families, like you could take into account that one case with those two white lesbian
Oh my God, that was
mothers
crazy.
who had like a bunch of like black foster children, and they mistreated them.
And then they like sat there and killed them.
There
'cause,
was
like,
actually
yeah,
an episode about that on
Atlanta. Yeah.
Yes, dude, that was crazy.
like that whole story was crazy because like the one of them, I can't remember their name, but he was trying to tell everyone, and they were like, "No, you're only treating us like this because
Yeah,
we're lesbian."
wasn't there like a report of him like running up to the police or whatever?
yeah,
Yeah, that one famous photo where like he was hugging a police officer. I remember
Yeah.
there is like a really
Yeah.
famous photo of him doing that, and people like put it up to protest against Black Lives Matter, and like it's so dumb.
like you're sitting here using the same photo for like the wrong thing. Okay, but we need to get back on topic. Yeah. So what is the second question, Ali?
What financial considerations impact a person's decision to seek abortion?
A lot of people I feel get pregnant like when they're teenagers, and so you know how a lot of teenagers aren't even ready. Like I feel like that's the biggest thing, and then some people aren't even mentally ready either, and I feel like people just take that into more of account because they're also scared of raising the kid, especially if the father figure isn't around. So yeah.
Yeah, I can see where Faith's coming from because a lot of like teenagers also don't have jobs.
Yeah.
Like a lot of us are unemployed. We depend on our parents to like, and like it's basically if your parents had like another sibling.
Yeah.
If because like if you're like, or like sometimes the parents don't even support you. You have to like go out, drop out of school, get a full-time job
Yeah, and like you have to miss your whole ass high school degree.
Like your whole childhood and whatnot. Yeah. So for our next question, what are some long-term societal impacts of abortion you think they are? Like it being banned or it being more open? Either way. Because personally, for me, I feel like it can either go two ways. Okay. Because eventually, like, we see the unhappy, like, protest of pro-lifers eventually rising on top, and then it just kind of, it's a back and forth cycle.
Yeah. I feel like that's tricky because it's like what you said, like even if we were to keep abortion, those people that are against it so much are just gonna keep protesting at those abortion clinics and stuff, and I feel like it'll just keep getting worse. Because I don't know about you, I just been seeing those crazy groups getting bigger and bigger. So
I mean, yeah, but it's also like we see opposing sides to everything. It just depends on like what is the majority voice. Like, I mean, damn, like 50 years ago, like gay people didn't have rights, you know, because those were the majority voices. And it's just like, what is the best for society?
Next question. What are your thoughts on expectations to abortion bans, such as rape or incest?
Oh, so definitely I'm gonna have to say if it's something like that, I feel like everyone should have the right to get that abortion, you know? Because what were you doing? Like you were just there. Like no, like actually like that, like seriously, like you were just there. Like you had to be the victim and stuff. Like you had no choice.
Something that I saw when I was younger was that rapists pick the mother of their children. And that sentence just
What?
it just like shocks me to my core because it's true. Because you ban abortion, you make all things that are accessible, they can literally pick their like mother of their children, you know?
That's true.
It's, I don't know, it's just horrible to think about.
It's so nasty to think that you have like so much trauma from that one experience, and a lot of mothers who did have like children of their like rapists do say that they can't really look at their child, or like trying not to put the blame on their child because they didn't have like any excuse to that. But
Oh,
also, you can't really put that upon a child who's already been inflicted with so much trauma, because a lot of victims of rape have either been like only once or multiple times that they've been a victim of it. So like if you ban abortion, it's not really helping them at all. You're just putting more trauma onto them.
And more like responsibility that they're not ready and maybe not even healed from the initial trauma that happened in the first place. Are you pro-choice?
yes.
Do you have any experiences that made you pro-choice?
I don't. But I'm gonna just say that I know someone that went through something like that, kind of, and like just seeing like how she felt when she lost the baby, I could just tell I'm like, damn, she kind of really wanted that baby, you know. So I'm I'm more pro-choice because it's your body, your choice. Because I know that my mom would have probably been like, keep that baby. Maybe if I think she maybe would have been like that, but at the end of the day, I was like trying to defend her. So I think your choice, your body.
I mean, the whole idea that she had the choice to keep the baby or she didn't is like the whole thing. Like, I feel like a lot of pro-lifers think that, oh, it's just abortion, abortion, abortion. No,
It's
the whole
not.
the whole idea, you have the choice to keep or you have the choice to abort. It's not just one or the other.
Exactly. And they're making it seem like you have to choose one thing. It's like, no.
Do you think religion should pose a role in pro-life beliefs?
No. No, I do not think so because I know that a lot of religions think that like killing a baby is a sin. And so they think that doing that is you're like, oh, you're gonna go to hell. You're gonna go through this. And it's like, no. Like, what do you mean? Like, you just killed a little frijolito, you know? Like in your stomach. That's all you did. I don't know. I don't. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because like it's not even like it doesn't have a heart. It doesn't
Have a
have.
brain even. Like,
No, but then you got the pro-lifers being like, they have a heartbeat at 8 weeks. I thought that like it's not even a heartbeat, it's just the amniotic fluid, isn't
and
it?
even
Yeah.
then, like in the early stages of finding that out, you would still get that abortion, you know? If you didn't really want to keep that baby, why would you wait 8 weeks to figure it out?
Yeah, and like my whole idea is like pro-lifers are like, oh, you're killing grown babies. Like,
What?
it doesn't work like that. Like, do you understand how painful a late-term abortion is?
No, actually,
Like,
though.
it's not. I don't even. I'm pretty sure it's not even considered abortion, isn't it? Just considered
Like you're just killing the baby at that point.
Yeah, it's considered
Because you
miscarriage. That's
don't
what it's like
you-
actually considered.
You have to like they have to use this certain tool that I saw that cuts the baby
Yeah.
into pieces sometimes.
Like sometimes like women even have to like give birth to the dead baby, and it's just like,
and sometimes the mother doesn't even make it through it.
yeah,
Like you have to decide it's either the baby or the mom.
It's so crazy.
it is so crazy.
Okay, well, thank you so much for being on our podcast, Faith. I hope you have a very good afternoon.
Of course. Thank you for letting me be on your podcast.
Of course, ma'am.
Of course.
Even today, women are being denied such an essential right. An example of women not having a choice is if a woman is pregnant, she may be unable to get a divorce in some states. The idea of pro-life is often an idea who would identify with someone who is in a Republican or a red state. Now, states that are more open to abortion are often liberal or a blue state. Post Roe v. Wade, states have completely banned abortion are Alabama, Arkansas, Idaho, Indiana, Texas, Oklahoma, North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, Louisiana, Tennessee, Kentucky, and West Virginia.
Other states have induced a ban after 6 weeks that are Georgia and South Carolina. Those that have a ban after 12 weeks are Nebraska and North Carolina.
States that have a ban after 15 to 18 weeks are Arizona, Utah, and Florida. The rest of the states are able to get an abortion that is not medically necessary after 20 weeks. If it is further than 24 weeks, it must be medically necessary.
However, women who want an abortion may not be able to get one. In some states, if you want to get a divorce, you are not allowed to get an abortion. If you want to get a divorce in some states and are pregnant, you cannot.
Most of the data we have gotten is from a few different sources: USA Today, Fox 4, and US News. Some of the states that if you want to divorce and want to get an abortion, you are not allowed to, such as in Arkansas, Arizona, California, Missouri, and Texas. California and Texas do not allow for women to get a divorce if they are pregnant, but do sometimes make exceptions for domestic violence.
Recently, a bill was proposed to remove the law. In Missouri, the law had been in place for 50 years, but now there is a push to remove it. The law was initially made to prevent the bastardization of children and keep families together. The bill to remove it had been proposed by Democratic Representative Ashley On. She says the bill would allow the court to enter a judgment of dissolution of marriage or legal separation if a person is pregnant.
Basically, this means that if a woman wants to dissolve a marriage, she can even if she is pregnant.
In other states, there is no ban, but most judges are open to waiting until after the baby is born. Such states are Alabama, Delaware, Hawaii, Indiana, Maine, Mississippi, Nebraska, South Dakota, and Wyoming.
Blocking women from having an abortion can only lead to more dangerous situations like domestic violence. Abusers are often aware of the law and use it to their advantage. If you have a child with someone, you are tied to them forever.
Sarah Bramer, the Vice President of Domestic Violence Services at Synergy Services in Kansas City, talks about how she had a man who tracked his wife's ovulation so she could have been pregnant during the time she was with him.
I mean, the law is supposed to be there to protect you, yet there's a law that is sitting there clearly protecting abusers and supports coercion manipulation.
The law does not only insult women, but men. See, if a man's wife gets pregnant, the state automatically assumes that the man is the father. On states that she has seen where a man is overseas, obviously not the father, yet the states will still not let them divorce until after the baby is born and proceedings have been concluded.
Yup, such ideas not only directly hurt women, but men as well. Again, with the idea of abortion relating to crime rates, we will let you think on that. To ask such questions and ethical as this, you will be needing to be having an open mind and consider different perspectives. Only then will you be able to gain deeper knowledge and more sensitive issues. So now with everything we've discussed, I would like to ask you, Alitzel, what are your personal beliefs or feelings about abortion and how have they evolved over time?
Personally, for me, I'm pro choice as someone who's seen various family members of my own like pass away because of them not being able to have an abortion. Like in Mexico, abortions are very looked down upon, and usually you do have to go if you're a woman there who's like pregnant, who's like a teenager. A lot of like teen pregnancy is very um a very big issue over there, considering a lot of the cartel issues and stuff like that. Um, it's really important to have to be able not to just like fight for rights of abortion here, which is like it's so like jaw agaping to see like such an important health issue be banned here. Meanwhile, in countries like poorer third world countries like let's say for example India or Mexico at this point be able to like have that right banned, it's very disheartening to see as like it shows that you're not really caring about the citizens and their health because a lot of the times back alley abortions don't work. They usually kill people because of how they're done, how they make you take medicine that may not be well for you.
Personally, I think that it's always crazy that you have people who cannot get pregnant, who do not understand the dangers of what a back alley abortion can do, especially toward people of color, where people of color are more often than not discriminated against, especially medically.
Yeah, I would agree upon that. Like, a lot of people of color are usually discriminated against medically because people think they can't pay for it. A lot of the times they turn away certain people just because they see them as like quote unquote dirty, quote unquote poor, they have no money, and it's something like that with the banning of abortion. It causes us as a society in America to like,
Take a few steps back.
yeah, you're not proceeding in the way you want to by making this country greater again. You're more so stepping back and making it worse for everyone.
And my thought on this is that many Republican conservative Trump supporters do not support abortion. Well, ironically enough, Trump had said that he would leave it to the states.
Which is really, really, really weird. Like,
Considering some of the stuff he said, but yeah.
Yeah, it's weird to like hear that from like such a like conservative,
White man.
yeah, and then your supporters are like, okay, that's taken out of context. Clearly, he would put it in like the Constitution. They don't know how the Constitution works, obviously, but obviously they'd say something like that and be like, oh, the law needs to be like with the federal government, not the state government. The federal government has to make it a law for everyone, for every state to ban abortion. And really, it's really
Like
crazy.
baffling.
Yeah, baffling that your supporters would say one thing, but you say another. Are they really supporting you, or one general idea that you're giving them?
I mean, ironically enough, can't you take this into Christianity, how people pick and choose what they like in it?
I mean, yeah, you could, because a lot of biblical text, a lot of people argue that Jesus was like a person of color, which obviously he is because he was born in
The Middle East.
the Middle East. He's clearly Middle Eastern, or as some would like to call him, he was more of like, he was a black person because black our ancestors, or they come from from Africa. A lot of people argue against that.
What efforts can be made to ensure that individuals in rural or underserved areas have equitable access to abortion services?
Well, first of all, to not ban abortion rights.
Yeah, obviously.
That's like the biggest right they have as like people of color, poor people, homeless people. They need access to this right before they're able to start making equality or affordable health care for them. They need to have these rights instead of just like going out and removing them from having a actual good um like resource to get an abortion. If, like we said earlier, if crime rates were so low because of women who were like usually people who don't have good jobs, don't have a good life, they got pregnant on accident and they weren't able to have that abortion, that child would have like a probably terrible life. And that mother would resent not just herself, but the life she started making for herself as well, because now she can't provide for another mouth.
And the life that she's already like forced to have. I cannot remember what the book is called, but it's in a dystopian society where you can only have two kids, and you have more than two kids, the third child will die. I feel like that's just kind of what's being understood here, is that you just put so much effort into something that is just over with eventually.
Also, to make sure that we ensure individuals in underserved areas get those services is to make it free. That's like one of the most important parts. A lot of people don't get health help because they can't afford it. They don't have insurance. They don't qualify for welfare or like Medicare. They don't have the funds.
And I mean, it's just making sure that there's enough money put into an option. I know that the closest Planned Parenthood from my house is about 30 minutes away. Both of them are actually 30 minutes away. And I think that it's crazy that in such a big city as Las Vegas that we only have two Planned Parenthoods.
Yeah, two Planned Parenthoods is very
Crazy for the
it's
million
yeah,
people that live here.
especially for tourists. You don't know what they're going through. Like maybe they came here because their state doesn't allow them to have an abortion, but you only have two centers that are so far away from the airport, from rural areas. Like a 30-minute drive from our area is very far. It takes a lot of gas, especially with now how gas is so expensive, how bus cars are also starting to get very expensive. They don't have the time, they don't have the money.
But you also have to think about that rural areas are often way more conservative. Like if you look at Nevada, Reno and Las Vegas are so blue, but everywhere else around it is often rural, which makes them red when you look at the map of it.
I think that's very interesting as well because it's so crazy that we're a blue state because of our two biggest cities here in Nevada. And if we didn't have the population we had, we'd probably be a red state and most likely would have had abortion rights taken away.
But that's part of why Nevada is considered a toss up state because it's literally just about 50-50 here. So I just think it's kind of harmful to those who are in rural areas. And, God forbid somebody finds out you have an abortion.
Oh my gosh.
Because then you'd be shamed there, and overall it'd just be a bad experience for you, even worse than you already feel for, like, maybe you feel guilt because you're having an abortion, especially in the area you were raised in.
That too, a lot of women do feel a sense of guilt afterwards because it's like a maternal instinct. It's like when animals have their maternal instinct. You're pregnant, but you also know you can't take on this responsibility. You might be a teenager, you might not have the job, you may not be qualified, you may have a disability, you may have been raped. You don't want to burden that child. It's just so weird seeing how like rural areas will shame you for that even though they don't know the full story.
I mean, it's just kind of backwards. People are ashamed for being a teenager and having a kid, and then they're also ashamed for being a teenager and having an abortion.
That too. It's very weird seeing how very conservatives are like, "Oh, why are you having sex so young?" But maybe that girl didn't want it. Maybe she was confused. Maybe she had to have that child because she knows those conservative views, and maybe it goes against her religion, and she feels like as if she does not have the choice to get rid of that child when she knows she cannot uphold that responsibility.
And I mean, I remember that I once had an interaction with somebody who was pro life, and I brought up the point of, well, why don't you adopt someone? Because they were arguing that if you wanted to get an abortion, you could just have that child, but they also don't realize that the medical burden that comes onto you, the like emotional burden that you've already had, now the child that will bring an emotional burden on you. And there's already so many kids that are just in the adoption center that it's overwhelming. And when I brought up, well, why don't you do something about it? They didn't say anything. So I feel as if they just don't think that far into the future. They only think about what's happening now.
Yeah, I agree with the adoption system as well because how are you so advocate for something that doesn't have a heartbeat, but once you see a child who has no family,
Like
has
actual feelings.
like he's living, he's breathing, he's like lived for like up to like what? He's like an actual baby, he's been born, but you see adopting a child as a hassle, meanwhile protecting an embryo that hasn't even been born as more of a hero doing the good.
I mean, not to mention how much money it costs to adopt someone, the housing checks that have to be done. Just all of that as well.
Yeah. And I can see it could be a hassling decision, but it's like having a baby. you're bringing someone to your home. You of course have to check your house. It's like baby proofing your house. Even though you can like actually like what choose the age, choose like how much you're putting into effort into it. Obviously you have to put effort. You're parenting, but like you're protecting something that has basically no future if it's not born. Meanwhile, this child has a future because he's living and making these choices for himself. He didn't choose to be an orphan, or like he didn't choose to be there. He just ended
He
up
was born
there.
there. Yeah, it's also kind of the argument that sometimes pro-lifers will have where they are like, okay, well, what if that baby went on to solve cancer or something? Well,
We don't know that.
yeah. And like my thought is, like don't quote me on this, but I feel like a cure for cancer is like already been made. The person that made it is just like killed for it. But you know, because the government wants money. But that's not
Conspiracy theory.
Yeah,
that
but-
is a whole different topic.
yeah, that's not our topic for today. But basically, like, okay, well, what if that teen mom that could have gotten an abortion would have continued on to study and then got the cure for cancer for that, you know?
Yeah, because a lot of teen moms do drop out because they're either ridiculed by their peers or even teachers that they don't want to continue their education, or even they just don't have the time to hassle a job, an education, a child. They don't have the time to do that.
Like, that's a lot of work for an adult person in general, you know? Like, just imagine a teenager, one whose brain is not fully developed and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, there's the argument, well, she should have just kept it in her pants. Okay, well, you know, more often than not, sexual education is not properly taught to people.
Yeah, like a lot of high schools have the sex ed teacher be like a PE teacher. They don't have a professional teacher because it's not like
It's not that important
important
to them.
to them. That is going to be all for today's episode, and we'd like to thank you for watching our first episode of W.I.S.E. Be sure to tune in to the next episode, which we should discuss the idea of sexism in social media and how it affects everyone.
If you would like to know more about our next episode, please check out our Instagram page at W_I_S_E_gov PROJ.